What if the one medicine meant to save your family was, in reality, made from the pulverized bones of someone else's loved one? This is not just a story, this is a true account, a gruesome saga of blood and greed played out in the dark corners of Korea, gripping the very soul of a man pushed to the brink of ruin. You are about to witness the most horrific truth imaginable. There is no time for hesitation. We dive immediately into the heart of this nightmare. The story begins 15 years ago with two young Chinese men striving to earn a living in the industrial belt of South Korea, Minho and Hyunwoo. Minho was relentlessly rational and detached, almost shielding himself from the world's harsh emotions. Hyunwoo, however, was pure, desperate heart. His every breath was fueled by the crippling need to save his mother from leukemia and his brother from a rare disease. To understand this horror, you must understand Hyunwoo's psychology. When faced with financial catastrophe and the life or death fate of loved ones, the rational part of the human brain temporarily shuts down. Only the primal circuit of hope and survival remains active. For Hyunwoo, money was life itself, and any chance to earn it was something he simply refused to question. They worked at a remote factory. Their supervisor was a fellow Chinese national, Mrs. Kwan. She presented herself as kind and caring, yet beneath her smile lurked a calculating coldness. To Hyunwoo, Mrs. Kwan felt like an oasis in the desert of his life. The accident on the factory floor was the final trigger for Hyunwoo's despair. A moment of distraction, thinking of his mother, and the blade of the cutting machine severed his right index finger. A scream tore through the air, and blood stained the floor instantly. The emergency room brought not relief, but a crushing invoice. As a foreign worker, Hyunwoo had no workers' compensation and no health insurance benefits. The debt, amounting to millions of won, utterly suffocated him. That's when Mrs. Kwan stepped in. Hyunwoo, your auntie will help you, but nothing in this world is free. Mrs. Kwan paid the hospital bill in full. Then came the chilling offer. I don't expect interest, but you must repay this debt. Help my husband with his business. Repay it with your labor. Hyunwoo accepted without hesitation. He saw Mrs. Kwan as his savior. Every night after his regular shift, he headed to the second job, a mysterious supplement factory run by Mrs. Kwan's husband. 5 hours of work for $75. To Hyunwoo, this was nothing short of a miracle. Hyunwoo's new workplace was an abandoned factory tucked away on a remote mountainside. His task was simple, packaging fine, grayish-white powder into clear capsules. Mrs. Kwan called it a panacea, a cure-all. Hyunwoo genuinely believed it. After all, the pain from his severed finger had subsided faster than the doctors predicted after he started taking the capsules. His faith was rooted in love, making Minho's attempts to reason with him futile. But Minho's rational instinct screamed a warning. A simple white powder curing untreatable diseases? It was a farce. Furthermore, when Hyunwoo prepared to visit home, Mrs. Kwan insisted he travel by sea, not air, carrying the packaged powder with him. She called it raw material to avoid customs. Minho couldn't shake the suspicion that this material required something predatory. The word hunt kept echoing in his mind. The critical break came one night around 3 a.m. Minho spotted Mrs. Kwan and her husband's formidable bodyguard, Mr. Park, speaking outside the factory. Their language wasn't the standard Mandarin they usually spoke. It was Cantonese, a dialect completely foreign to Minho and Hyunwoo. This was more than a language barrier. When associates use an unfamiliar language to discuss business, it signifies a deliberate act of concealment and betrayal. From that moment on, Hyunwoo's life was on the clock. Minho secretly recorded their conversation. He couldn't decipher the full exchange, but terrifying words cut through the noise: failure, the deal, gender, and most chillingly, the hunt. Minho instinctively knew that Hyunwoo was not just a laborer, he was a crucial tool in a dark, dangerous game. A few days later, a devastating call came from Hyunwoo's brother. His mother had vomited blood after taking the cure. Hyunwoo's blind faith shattered. It was time for Minho to act. Minho persuaded the broken Hyunwoo to go back to the abandoned factory, ignoring Mrs. Kwan's insistence that it was closed. As they cautiously entered the dimly lit building, the sound of Mr. Park's car pulling up echoed outside. "Hyunwoo, hide!" Minho shoved Hyunwoo into a small, rusty metal cabinet, barely large enough for one person, let alone two grown men. Trapped in a confined space, Hyunwoo was paralyzed by fear, while Minho desperately tried to control his own breathing, his focus razor sharp. Mr. Park was on the phone, speaking the foreign Cantonese dialect. Minho hit the record button. "Hunt them on, specific day. What is the age?" Hyunwoo's leg, cramped and restricted, twitched, causing a muffled, sharp thud inside the metal cabinet. Mr. Park's footsteps stopped instantly. A suffocating silence fell over the factory floor. We, the audience, were now frozen, trapped in that cabinet with them. Mr. Park's shadow loomed over the cabinet door. He could have opened it, but after an agonizing silence, he muttered, "Must be a rat," and walked away towards the exit. Only after hearing the engine fade into the distance could the two men stumble out, soaked in sweat and terror. Minho forced open Mr. Park's desk drawer and found a notebook filled with codes, numbers, and cryptic personal details. The analysis that followed, provided by Minho's contact in Seoul, froze their blood. That grayish-white powder, it's not a simple drug, it's likely pulverized human bone, not from the elderly but from young, healthy individuals. It's highly prized on the black market as a raw material for this so-called panacea. The terrifying source? The very hunt Mr. Park discussed. Vulnerable foreign workers, immigrants whose disappearances would be ignored or minimally investigated by authorities. They were the ideal raw material for this cartel, which operated right out of Korea. And now, Hyunwoo's role was terrifyingly clear. He was not paying off a debt. He was being groomed as the perfect mule/courier. If caught carrying the raw material back into China, Hyunwoo would face maximum penalty: death, while Mrs. Kwan would simply erase him and disappear, her hands clean. The money she paid for his surgery was merely the deposit on a much larger, fatal transaction. Minho forced Hyunwoo to flee. They paid back some of the debt as a distraction and cut all ties, changing their numbers and disappearing. Mrs. Kwan tried to stop them, her mask of kindness finally slipping, but the two men left her behind. Years later, news broke about a ring busted for selling capsules made from human remains. But Mrs. Kwan and Mr. Park were not among the arrested. This confirmed their chilling suspicion. This horrific trade was a systemic operation, deeply rooted and widespread. They escaped, but the specter remains. Somewhere out there, Mrs. Kwan and Mr. Park are searching for the next Hyunwoo. The most profound psychological lesson here is simple. The person who knows your deepest vulnerability is the most dangerous predator you will ever encounter. Hyunwoo was blinded by the need for money, but Mrs. Kwan exploited his most pure emotion, his love for his family. Never forget that hope can sometimes be the most fatal poison. What desperate transaction are you blindly walking into right now?